Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Cory Lindholm of PPC Unfiltered. Welcome to our beautiful, awesome, intelligent, incredible, global podcast that is PPC Unfiltered. I am joined by my co-host somewhere on the screen, Michael Nadalin. Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm great, mate. Fucking awesome. I
Heck
need to
yeah.
bleep that, but I'm awesome.
That's unfiltered.
Yes.
Sorry, YouTube. We're going to have to filter it, I guess. All right. So today we've got a fun topic, something that comes up a lot, I would say, and that is should I do Google Ads myself or should I hire an agency or a freelancer or whatever? So essentially, can I just do this myself? We're going to cover that topic for you guys today. Michael, does this come up for you like during consulting calls? Is it something that's pretty frequent?
Yeah, it's more that people come to me asking for advice, and then the advice I give them leads them to realize how much they don't know. So
Mm,
I think the DIY approach comes to a level of your sophistication, how much you know, and how much you're actually going to implement as well. So I'm not going to derail the start of this conversation, but because I know there's many things you want to talk about. But yeah, this is something that does come up from time to time, and
yeah.
it's interesting because it's always case by case, which is the best
I
thing
think
about it.
that's a really good point. I think that is one of the major cons to doing it yourself is when you start working with someone that does know it's been doing it for years, has worked on a variety of accounts and a large breadth of different industries and types of accounts, different budget levels, etc. You'll find that it's actually more complicated than you think. I think there's a lot of people that'll try to troll this video or other videos and be like, Google Ads isn't it just about picking, putting some exact match keywords and, put some commercial intent around a keyword and targeting the locations I need. Isn't that it? And then all I need to do is just throw up a PMAX campaign, one asset group, and I'm ready to go. Is that it? Is it that simple? What do you think? Is it that simple, Google Ads, or is there a little bit more to it?
I think there's a lot more to it. The thing is, the problem is there are times when that stuff does work, but
Sure.
it's probably about 20% of the time.
Mm,
80% of the time, that's not enough. That's a good
okay.
foundation, but the foundation ain't the house. So you got to
Right.
really build upon that. That's what I said. Like as from the start, it is case by case.
Yeah.
So as much as that was partially a joke, there are times, as you
Yeah.
see accounts, and you're like, dude, there's nothing happening here, and they are killing it. And all they've got to
Yes.
do is adjust budget. But most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
realistically, most of the time, that is very rarely the case. And
Mm-hmm.
even still, doing those basic things that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
someone will do one of them wrong. It'll be a settings issue or a keyword match type issue or a location issue like there's always, even if they do those things, they also do those things wrong.
Right. Right. So what is like the biggest, let's say, situation where someone would go? When is it a really good case? Like since it is only maybe 20% of the time that something like that works. When is that usually the case in your opinion? Is it when the budgets are lower? Because that's usually what I would see. Is the budgets are really low. It's not a very complicated market. It's like you only have like four products really, and it's a very very simple market. You don't have very optimistic expansion goals or anything like that. Would you say that's kind of more common?
Yeah, I would say the things that are usually the signs that you could DIY it yourself is, and this is kind of a philosophy I have. I think people tend to think it's them versus the market,
Hmm.
or like they're them and their client and they're trying to get the lead versus the market. But
Mm-hmm.
there's one big barrier between them, which is Google Ads, which is
Yeah.
all the settings, how they deliver ads. So let's just talk about keywords because that's probably the best place to do a logical expression of this. Is
Mm-hmm.
there are campaigns where if you ran a broad match keyword for a term, you would actually just get terms relevant to that. And that's awesome. But that's very few times. Most of the time, if you
Yeah.
run a phrase match or a broad match, but even exact match, you will just start getting random terms. So it doesn't even matter about your location or the right keywords. Google is against you and you're starting to show for keywords that are extremely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Now, I can say this 99.999% of the time, most clients aren't doing aggressive negative keyword cleanups in those
I agree.
for those types of accounts.
Yep.
And even if they are, they're doing it in a way that's actually counter even at working. So the question was, what was the question? I can get
I
I
don't
get caught
know.
on so. No, so look, the times where I think the main thing is It really is you versus Google. And then once you've got past that layer of Google, like the first boss, it's like then you're going against your customer, trying to get them to buy from you, and then you versus your competitor. That's the biggest framework where people who self-run their account don't get that it's really them versus Google and the new changes, the new settings, the new features. And the biggest issue with that DIY, this is going on another side quest, is there are so many new features coming out that have no benefits. And because they hear about it on LinkedIn or this new video, they're like, I've got to try this thing. And then they spend hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars on a campaign type or something new that does not work because it's not actually aligned with either more sales or more leads. And with that, then they're wasting time, energy, and effort rather than just bringing it back to the main thing, which would either be the keywords, the shopping feed, the shopping campaign, the PMAX campaign. So I feel like that was a very scattered approach because there's so many elements you've got to pick at. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so you could think it's really simple and you followed like a how to do Google Ads article and you think that that's enough. But I think one of the real powers of working with an agency or a freelancer with a lot of experience is they're going to bring knowledge from similar industries, like working on accounts in similar markets and some similar industries at similar CPCs or whatever it is. They're going to be able to bring that cross industry or cross account knowledge and experience to your management, or maybe they're just on the advice they're giving you on the account from a consulting basis. You can't do that yourself unless you've worked at an agency, unless you've worked in a variety of accounts. So, you're going to get a competitive edge with that, usually, as long as the agency or freelancer's, high quality and has that breadth of knowledge. So I think that's a big, big, big advantage, is being able to bring those insights. You don't have to pay to learn to make those mistakes yourself. You can pay the agency who's made those mistakes in other accounts and has tested things across other accounts and go say, this is what works consistently most of the time for a business like yours. And that's a huge advantage financially, as opposed to you just going, well, let's see what happens if I try all exact match, and let's try mixing in phrase and exact, and well, let's just let broad match do its thing for a few months and see how that works, rather than an agency going, no, I know what your industry or these products. All right,
and we are back because sometimes the software we use crashes, but we're just going to keep continuing on with the flow. And I don't even remember where you're at, Cory, because
I was just saying
8:30 in the morning for me. You go.
You're good. So I'm caffeinated, ready to go. So I was talking about essentially like sometimes you're going to be, spending your own money making mistakes to try to learn that other agencies have already spent other people's money to learn and be able to make those mistakes and figure out what does usually work. So rather than you testing broad match versus phrase match versus a mix of phrase and exact and this type of copy versus this type of copy, or these campaign types versus these campaign types, hiring an agency or a freelancer, they're going to go, look, I've worked with similar businesses like to yours. I'm going to start with those strategies because they tend to work the most, and we'll customize from there. That's a way more cost-effective way to go at this, as opposed to just doing it yourself and spending the bare minimum to try to figure out what's going to work. That could take years before you finally figure it out at your spend levels. So huge advantage there goes to agencies doing it for you, as opposed to you trying to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, amazing. The thing I've noticed, and this is what people need to consider, is if your account is not working and you're running it yourself and you're doing DIY, you don't know if it's your business / industry. You don't know if it's you running it, or you don't know if it's just like the experience, like you just don't have the experience to get to that level to make it work. Right. And sometimes accounts will just work when you restructure it. Sometimes it'll just work when you get a new person running it. And sometimes it just will work based on the industry. I've noticed that, and this is getting into the Facebook side because I think this is important. Clients who have built their company up and they've run their Google Ads accounts, I've seen them when they come to me or someone I know, they tend to go better because there's a big gap. When it's with Facebook, most of the time when a company or an agency owner, the company owner has been running the ads account and they go to an agency, it gets worse because Facebook's very based on creative, and obviously the audiences and the AI and powerful are really, like on Facebook, are really powerful. And that's where I see a lot of people, like if I was like speaking to someone who's doing e-commerce, they've run their Facebook ads themselves, I'd say keep running it yourself, because I've only heard horror stories, especially from clients. But with Google Ads, once you get to a certain point, you can safely pass it over, especially if it's a competent person, because they're going to know the things you don't know. At the same time, the time investment in Google Ads, especially for the data analysis, you're just not going to have the time if you're a business
Yeah.
owner and you're doing it yourself. Like, you're just
Yep.
not going to. If you're trying to do product research or like follow up leads or do all these other things, it's not a set and forget thing anymore. I
Yeah.
wish it was,
Yeah.
but it's not. And the reason it's
Yep.
not is because Google's changing settings all the time. You have more
Mm-hmm.
competitors in the market. Customer expectations are changing. Cost per clicks go up. And if cost per clicks go up by like 10, 15%, that could be increasing your cost per lead by maybe 20 or 30% because you're actually getting less leads. So statistically, you're getting less opportunities for that higher conversion rate versus lower conversion rate. So and this is not because like I run a Google Ads company, but I also do Facebook ads and landing pages. So I'm not attached to it. It's more that most businesses are not in the position where they can just do it themselves and expect to grow, because
Right.
it's a full-time job. It's an expertise.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm still learning every day. It's
Sure.
crazy.
Yep. And business owners should, or CEOs, whatever, you should have other things on your plate. You should have so much that you're doing. You shouldn't be worrying about watching YouTube videos about Google Ads. Sorry, that is just probably not worth your time. Like, if you can quantify how much your hours are worth, it's probably better to just put that money into a person that's going to be probably less than your hourly to do it for you. That this is all they do. This is their obsession. This is what they research all the time. They've tested things. Probably a better use of your money to hire somebody to do it. Again, not in all cases, but in many cases. For those that are like marketing managers, again, you probably have a million things on your checklist. Watching Google Ads videos all day and staying up with the latest settings. If Google Ads is a primary driver of revenue and leads or whatever for your business, you probably want to allocate that to an agency or a specialist who, again, can stay up on the new stuff, all the changes, and can bring that experience to the forefront, because you probably are also doing social, you're doing your organic stuff, you might be working on the website and fixing up landing pages, you might even have to do in-person marketing events and stuff like that. You've got I've done this myself. Like I was the all-in-one marketing manager, and I know what it's like. And you feel like you have not enough time to really specialize into one channel, even if it's your major channel. It's probably, again, worth your time to allocate some of that and learn from the person if that makes sense. You're not going to be able to learn the whole thing, but you can be on the calls with them sometimes if you want to get a training or something. And sometimes that works really well too, where they make some of the changes, you make some of the changes. You have to obviously discuss that with your agency if that's an option. Many agencies won't offer that as a service, but
Crazy.
Something to consider. Yeah,
that's a nightmare if clients make changes. I have no clients that do it because most of the clients I work with just do not know how to do ads. I think what's really important is when handing off an account to an agency is they will do things differently because they have to, because if they did things your way, you wouldn't need them, or they could just be an extension of you. The most important thing is how good is soccer. In the background of Cory, because where are you right now? Colombia?
I'm in Colombia, yeah.
Yeah, so people are fanatics of football.
Yeah.
Or as we call it in Australia, soccer.
Yeah.
But going back to the main point. So if you hear background noises, that's just him having the authentic Colombian experience.
Yeah.
The main thing is if you're going from DIY to an agency, it's really important. Just you're delegating the work, but you're not delegating the responsibility. Meaning you've still got to be on top of the numbers. Like I have an accountant, and I'm making sure that my business numbers are always at a certain number. I'm not just like going, I've got an accountant now, I never have to look at numbers anymore. You've still got to be on top of it. So when working with a agency or a specialist or a freelancer, you want to make sure that there's a really simple and clear reporting structure, being it that you've got live dynamic reporting so that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, you know what your cost per lead is, your conversion rate, how many leads you got, or how many sales you got, your return on ad spend, your average order value, all the metrics that are important to you. Because it's not that you're just handing this off and then you're just like putting the blinders on. It's you're handing it off for someone to do the work, but you're still on top of the data there as well. And what we've noticed with our clients is that's what they want. They want to not do the work, but they still want to know the data and be on top of it and be able to check in on the data. It might be a Sunday night or a Wednesday afternoon, but not having to go go into the account and click around and like look at all these change history things and doing date variants, like having a really clear, simple report that they can go in at any time and say, oh, okay, this is all good. Google Ads isn't something I need to worry about. But that's the main thing I think people worry about when they are giving off their Google Ads account is like, I'm losing all control and visibility. It's like you're not losing visibility if you've got good tracking, as in like reporting, and you're not losing visibility if you still have access to your account and you can see what's going on there. But if you know how much you're spending, you're seeing the results clearly, you shouldn't worry because you're paying for outcomes now rather than for all the technical stuff.
That makes me wonder what your opinion is on what are the most like common mistakes that if you are doing it yourself that you see. What are the most common ones? For me, it's like really quick. I'd say it's like over tinkering with the account, like every day changing the T ROAS or every day changing the budget of like a big campaign that needs a lot of time, or messing up conversion tracking. Like super common is they like realize, oh, Shopify isn't connected to Google Ads, even though I don't realize the way that it is connected. And then they're like, oh, let me just turn this on, and then all of a sudden, all the Shopify auto like imported conversions turn on. Now all my bidding strategies are like seeing two different primary conversions. Those are some really common ones, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say just everything. Honestly, I rarely see a DIY account that's done right. Keywords, campaign structures, settings in the structures, conversion tracking. And that's just the Google Ads account. They're just like talking about like what page are they going to? Like, is the page even optimized for leads or sales? Like you can do all this amazing stuff in the account, but if it's going to a shitty web page, no matter how good the account is, it's not going to work. And sometimes because they're so used to their website and being like, oh, I love it. My niece created it like 10 years ago and we love it. She's such a good designer. It's like, dude. And that they're the things that's more just beyond. And that's the other thing. It's the scope beyond the Google Ads account. It's the industry experience. It's the business consulting, being able to pick out things that you know from Facebook ads and SEO and data analytics. It's not just Google Ads. Google Ads is not just Google Ads anymore. You're using Google Ads, but you're using everything out. Google Tag Manager, analytics, offline conversion data, Facebook, like all these things that it's not just a single like pillar anymore. And you need someone who's well-rounded. And that's probably not going to be you as a business owner because there are killers, ninjas, and sharks like us being paid a lot of money to dominate these industries.
Right, exactly. And it seems like there's a lot of scattered thinking in the strategy. That's what I tend to see with DIY accounts, because as a CEO or business owner, your mind is all over the place. You've got a lot of things to worry about, inventory management and your finances and all these other things. And then I see that happening in the account where they're like, they've got way too many campaigns. They're like $2 a day or something ridiculous. Yeah. And the CPCs are $5 on average. It's like, what is happening here? There's so much complexity, but not the intelligence or just like the knowledge, really. They're smart people, but they just don't understand. They don't have the expertise to understand why that's not a good idea. And so I see this scattered thinking, and then I'll ask them, which is always a fun part. So why did you launch this campaign? And they're like, oh, I don't even remember. That was 8 months ago, and I think we were doing this thing, and the CMO recommended we push this or whatever. They have no idea, and so it's just years of just crazy data, and they don't know. I'd say another really, really common thing, and this is something I always repeat, and I know that, but the data analysis skills are not there. They don't know what's a good date range to analyze. They don't know what a good minimum sample size is. They're making changes off of like 20 clicks, and it's like, oh no, you didn't give it enough time. They don't have those just core skill sets of a really good PPC professional. Could they learn them? Yes. Is it worth their time to get into that level of expertise? Probably not. They don't need to be everything. They need to be good at what they do as an owner and as someone who is delegating or outsourcing or whatever responsibilities. You shouldn't be doing everything. You probably shouldn't be doing your own Google Ads. You probably just don't have the expertise to do it. Yeah. So with all that said, go ahead. I was going to ask, when is the exception? Let's say, because I get this all the time, at what point should I hire an agency or someone to do it? And I always usually go back to, it's not just spend, because I think they kind of come into it with like, well, I hear that I need to be up to this level, because a lot of agencies won't take on an account if it's not at a certain spend level. And I'm like, well, it's less about spend, in my opinion, and it's more about the amount of data that's in the account and how complex it is, right?
I would say like most people, it's really tough because like investing in advertising like a consultant or an agency is expensive. It's like a professional service and it's more of an investment service than a marketing service.
Mm,
And that's exactly what I was saying. Like I very rarely like if accounts don't have much data or no data, I probably won't take them on because
mm,
there's not enough to work off. And they should be doing that themselves. A lot of the times you can set up a really basic campaign, a PMAX campaign, and just make sure the product feed is there. And you could probably within 10 hours do it okay, but you're not going to be getting outstanding results. But most people want outstanding results. So get data in, do some basic optimizations. I think start off the account yourself. Don't start off the account with someone else. And then just
mm,
but at the same time, I've had a lot of clients that have started with me and like they would be in no way capable of doing DIY. They just wouldn't do it full stop. So
mm.
I don't know, Corey. I
Yeah,
don't know,
I
mate.
see.
I
Yeah, I
don't know.
see.
I actually don't know.
That actually brings up an interesting point. So I see this happen a lot, and I know agencies complain about this, where they'll hire an agent. There's just guys that sort of bounce around. They're agency hoppers, and they're trying to like
Oh,
steal the
agency
latest ideas.
whores, mate,
And
whores.
they think that they are like able to just like steal the ideas or the best practice of the agency for a month or two. I've dealt with these people.
Yes.
What they're not realizing is we are adapting and those best practices are not set in stone forever. Like it's not like we just have like one core way that we always do it and that's like the optimal way and you can just steal that strategy and then all of a sudden your account's going to work amazing forever. It might be great for the moment, but you need to change. Like a good Google Ads specialist is going to make changes in the account. It's going to adapt their strategy based on what the data tells them is the best to do. So yeah, I don't be that guy or girl that just is constantly going from agency to agency. Agencies look out for clients like that, and usually we're going to check the change history, see how many different at agency.com, at agency, how many of those are in there before we decide to work with you, because it's usually not a great sign. And usually it's part of the prospecting process where we go like, so what happened with the last agency? And
Yeah.
you get some inclination as to whether it's a you problem or whether it's an agency problem. And often it's not an agency problem,
Yeah.
but it depends on how cheap
owner.
they went. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually a
Oh,
business
man.
owner.
Well, dude, that's amazing. We've got to do another episode. So shall we wrap this one up?
Sounds great, my man. All
Do you
right.
want me to wrap
So
it
guys,
up?
you can find me. Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere, and Twitter. I guess I'm on there too, Cory Lindholm. And I have a YouTube channel as well for just myself, as well as the PPC Unfiltered podcast. And as I mentioned, Spotify, PPC Unfiltered as well.
Wonderful. Michael Nadalin on LinkedIn, marketlead.com.au, marketlead on YouTube, PPC Unfiltered podcast on YouTube and Spotify. And something secret is going to be coming out soon as well. So you'll find out. But nothing will be released now. So anyway, Cory, great to chat and hope everyone has a great week.
All right. Take care, brother.